I want to start by saying again that these are not meant to offend anybody or hurt anybody that's been wounded at Faith Tabernacle. But I also want to be able to let people know what it was like for me and what some situations were. When I found out that Edwin Young had left, I debated going back just to see some people that I hadn't seen before. The idea of going back after 2.5 years, knowing that I had not been welcome, knowing that people turned their backs on me in the stores, that there were people who would not speak to me for 2.5 years, was a lot to handle. The fact that I was not comfortable with, I was afraid that people would think I was coming back to God, and I haven't left God, so I don't feel like that the coming back to God thing is right. I felt like people might try to drag me up to the altar and pray me back through, and I didn't want all of those things that they thought that I had lost just because I left Faith Tabernacle, that I had actually gained a lot by leaving Faith Tabernacle. I didn't want to deal with again. Didn't want to deal with thinking about. So I thought about going and visiting after Edwin left. I was told that now was my chance and that I should come back, but I didn't feel right about doing that. It really made me uneasy to think about the idea of going back to visit, even just to visit. I also didn't want to hurt anybody that would have started out thinking and excited about that I was there, thinking that I was going to come back and everything was going to be like it was, because after what happened to me at Faith Tabernacle, everything can never be the way that it was. Things might be different, and it doesn't mean that I haven't gotten over things or that I have any bitterness about things or any anger, but when something happens to you, it changes your life. That doesn't just go away because somebody else leaves the situation. And when something as big as leaving Faith Tabernacle happened to me, that's not going to change. Even if I went back to Faith Tabernacle, that will always be in my mind as to what happened to me while I was there. Not something I would dwell on every day, but it's just something that it's part of my life. I mean, you lose a parent, you lose a child, you lose a spouse or a family member. You might not think about it every day, you might not grieve it all the time after a while, but you don't forget that person. You don't forget what happened. You break your arm, you don't forget. You might have arthritis for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean your arm isn't healed. It just means that your life has changed because of what happened to you. Anyway, so I went, thought about going and decided against it. And then I found out about the open house. And I decided that maybe I might be able to handle an open house. Wasn't really sure at first, and the longer I thought about it, the more I thought that might be a good way to see some people again. I was surprised that I wasn't more nervous than I was before I went to the open house, but I had some other things scheduled that I was also pretty uptight about that morning, so I had plenty to deal with without having that concern on top of it. I didn't really get nervous until after the other event was done. And then there were a lot of memories and a lot of things that I was dealing with on my way up to the open house. Seeing people there was a lot that, there was a lot of things that I had forgotten. I hadn't really given any thought to for a while. Something surprised me. Somebody rushing up and saying hello and being so glad that I had come, and that was good. Other things, person saying that somebody would really want to see me, and then that person avoided me for the next 15 minutes until she had gotten done talking to everybody else that she got to see every week. That really, I realized that things hadn't changed in some ways, but it didn't bother me. I just saw it as humorous. Not humorous in a good way, but in a sarcastic way, I guess, because I saw I saw things for more what they were. Some of the actions that I had always excused before, I had less of I didn't excuse this time. And so I had a different perspective on it. Even after going to the open house, I wasn't sure that I wanted to go back into the church and go back to a church service. When I did decide to go back for a church service, I had already talked to several other people who had left. They couldn't come. They wanted to be there. I decided that I could probably go for their sakes, if nothing else. And then right before like hours before I got ready to go, I was given a purple ribbon, and I was told that it was interpersonal abuse and violence remembrance was what the purple ribbon stood for. And I thought, I'm going to go. I'm going to go for the people who can't be here and the people who can't come back, not only because physically they can't come back or they're too far away, but also for those that just really can't deal with the thought of stepping back into a church. Just like 2 months ago, I wouldn't have been able to deal with going back to a church like Faith Tabernacle. So I wore the ribbon for them, and I went back. I was very, very nervous going in the first time that I went. I wasn't sure what to expect from anybody. I wasn't comfortable with I have very sensitive hearing. The volume was extreme. I had forgotten just how extreme the volume was. I didn't want to sit by somebody and end up getting grabbed and run up to the altar. And I had seen that happen. I've seen people get somebody grab them by the wrist and grab them around the waist and just drag them up, and I didn't want that to happen. So I was really, really nervous, but none of that happened. I felt watched. I felt like my being there was not overly welcome at times, but nobody did anything that really disturbed me the first time. The second service that I went back, somebody slugged me in the arm, and that was one of the first time that something like that had happened. But the best greeting for a woman to give another woman is not to punch her. Might make note of that if you want to be a good witness. Anyway, so even the second time I went back, I was very nervous. I'm still not sure that I could go back for a regular service, especially because I was questioned as to why I was there. And just wanted people to know kind of what it was like to go back, what it was like going back for the first time, and some of the things that I dealt with, thoughts, the memories.